times have you sold somebody their first vintage watch?
Fairly often, actually.
Tell me about that.
I think people come in, there's a huge push right now from people of all ages to get away from the digital stuff, to get away from the smartphones and have something that's a little older and a little more thoughtful. Most of the time, if I'm selling somebody their first vintage watch, they're either buying a Hamilton or they're buying Omega. Because people want something nice. They say, oh, it's an anniversary, or I'm getting married and I want something that's not gonna break the bank, that I can just wear on a special occasion and appreciate it. And when you start talking to them about the history of these brands, I think that really opens people's eyes to what you can get for your money. For what you can get that you can wear every day of the week. And if you take care of it, it'll take care of you. I think it's just such a different proposition than your iPhone or a Fossil watch or a smartwatch, where, yes, I mean, everything has a place, right? You know, if you want to track your fitness or whatever, those are obviously, a vintage watch can't do that. But if you want something that will really stand the test of time and retain value and retain a story and a history, that's where an old watch can come into play.
What's the ballpark price range for those first-time buyers?
Typically under 1,000. Most of this, sometimes you might get 15 to 2. But when you tell people that you can get like a really pretty clean example of an Omega Seamaster for 800 to 1,100, that all of a sudden is a very enticing proposition to people. There was a customer who brought in like a 1980s quartz Seiko diver Pepsi. I forget what the movement was on it. And it was like not running, fairly scratched up, and we did a movement swap to get it running again. And I didn't catch the whole story, but apparently it was like his dad's, and his dad died in a plane crash, and that watch was like one of the only things left of his dad, and the watch was worn by his dad on the plane crash. So seeing his reaction when we give him the watch and it's ticking and keeping time. Thank you, sir.
If you weren't at the watch reserve, where would you be?
Outside of the watch industry, I'd be singing opera. Inside the watch industry, I could see myself working on a more journalistic aspect, writing for some company where it's just about the stories and just about the history, because that's clearly what gets me the most excited. So probably something like that, as far as like narrative, content creation, journalism kind of thing.
Who's a couple people that you look up to in that field?
Oh, dude. Ben Lowry, writing for Watches of Espionage, is just crushing it right now. I think Woe is at the forefront of watch journalism. It's very difficult now with how everything has moved to short form video to retain a readership with long form narrative. And Watches of Espionage is very good at that. And it's because Ben is such a good writer. Ben does a fantastic job. Jacob Van Buren, my buddy Jacob, is doing some fantastic stuff. He's writing full time in the industry now on his Substack, Seaview as well. And he is very thorough on his historical research. And then, I mean, you can look at kind of the OGs of the industry, like Mike Stockton from Fratello Watches. When I was first starting here and I was writing about vintage pieces, I'd be like, I need to know the history of this obscure reference. And sure enough, Mike Stockton would be there from like 10 years ago, writing a full detailed article about the watch. So there's definitely a lot of luminaries in the industry that you can get some inspiration from.
What's your go-to podcast, watch industry podcast that you listen to, that you would recommend?
I used to. I mean, the Grey NATO was the easy answer. The Grey NATO was where I found my watch community. When I first started in the world of watches, you know, everybody had your predestined path of Seiko SKX 007, Hamilton Khaki Field, Orient Bambino, et cetera, et cetera. And around that time when I started to really get into it, I had an Oris Aquis, I thought I was the shit. I started listening to the Grey NATO, and Jason and James really opened up the world of community in watches for me. They really sort of drove home the point for me starting out my watch collecting career that it doesn't matter how expensive the thing is on your wrist, it matters what you do with it and the relationships that you make with it. And that whole sort of ethos of community with the Grey NATO is probably why I am where I am today, is because the people that I've met, because of that community, because of that focus, like Chris Soule, has led me to the kind of sub-interests that I'm into in watches. And those sub-interests are very community focused. And you'll find this throughout the watch industry. Once you find your watch, your people, your niches in the watch industry, it's just about people. It's just about friendships, it's just about relationships, whether that's for journalism, for content, for sales, for hobbyists. It's just about the people you meet. And I think the ideas behind communities like the Grey NATO, where everyone's here to lift everybody up and just enjoy watches and have a good time, are really where the industry needs to be.